Greetings, loyal viewers, and welcome back. So, I know I've been losing a little bit of a track on my updating and my release scheduling for my reaction videos, but not to worry. To make up for that, I'm going to be reacting to both entries in the Badvent calendar in this one video. So, I'm going to be reacting to the Badvent for Wii Music and Shadow the Hedgehog. Now, before we get started, I want to say a couple things. Number one, about the whole Wii thing. I guess I can't really say I'm too surprised that a Wii game made it onto the Badvent calendar because, well, if I'm being completely honest, while there definitely was a lot of really bad shovelware put onto the Wii throughout its lifespan, let's be honest, Nintendo made some occasional hiccups on the Wii once in a while, too. That's right, other end. So I guess it's not too surprising. Now, as for Shadow the Hedgehog, I'm really beginning to think that this whole thing is not going to go for a whole one entry per franchise thing because, let's be honest here, and let's be completely friggin' honest, I don't think Shadow the Hedgehog is the worst thing of the whole goddamn franchise. And this is coming from someone who's actually played the goddamn game. Granted, that was a long time ago. I think several years by this point since the last time I've even touched the damn thing. But I can definitely tell you from personal experience and the fact that I am more or less, and I do say more or less, a modest fan of Sonic the Hedgehog. I'm not really super into it like I once was when I was growing up, and even early in my high school days, I'll even admit, albeit in a very kind of guilty kind of way. So, not really too much else for me to say at this point. I'm just really hoping he can give me, like he has for the past couple ones, give me a little bit more of a peace of mind. Like, if this does fall under the rule of the one entry per franchise rule, then I really hope that, much like with Spiral Orange, he can give me more of a perspective, I guess, on as to how he would put that over what many consider to be the absolute worst. In that case, Spyro Enter the Dragonfly, and in this case, it'd be freaking Sonic Boom. No doubt about that. Sure, there are the occasional defenders, but they're very few and very sparse. And whereas with Shadow the Hedgehog and even Sonic 06, there's definitely some crowds who will defend those games. Whereas Sonic Boom does not. So, without further ado, let's get it on! Caddicarus presents Badvent Calendar.
This game is so terrible that people publishing and making it could make it look good.
Oh god. Shigeru Miyamoto, no.
No, that footage is not defendable from it being a press conference and big screens and input delay and nerves. No,
yeah, exactly.
No. Wii Music is just dreadful in every sense of the word.
It doesn't even look like it. It doesn't even look to be
grabbing
fun.
This game for the first time with its fancy external sleeve and costly AAA Nintendo first-party price tag, and firmly believing that it was the future of motion control.
Okay, if anyone can translate to how much that would cost in US dollars, I would definitely be appreciative of that.
Hell yes, I want that. As a huge fan of Guitar Hero and a drummer for a few years,
I friggin' love Guitar Hero, by the way. Big fan.
See what they could pull out the bag.
And I even
coming out the bag was shit from me dressed as a goddamn dog, I would have barbecued it. This is easily the worst rhythm game, nay, the worst music-based video game I've ever played. At least those mini-games in Cory in the House on the DS actually register your actions. Yes, this is a musical game that simply does not register anything you do properly, and even when it does, it'll never do it in time. Doesn't matter if it's...
When a shovelware game like Cory in the House actually has better rhythm than something that actually was from Nintendo, and I can definitely assume that it was from them, considering usually anything under the Wii label usually was done with Nintendo under the helm, and even having its presentation done by Shigeru Miyamoto. And if you don't know what that guy is, you clearly deserve to be tormented with this game.
On a CRT, a HD TV, a 4K TV, where the Wiimote sensor is, anything that requires motion controls or button presses on the Wiimote alike will be so bloody delayed it turns every single attempt of a song in single or multiplayer into a total shit show. And for how simple this game is to the point that all you need to worry about is pressing buttons or swinging a remote at the correct time and nothing else, that's unbelievable. There's no excuse for any of it. So
yeah,
if the
exactly.
argument to defend the game is that this is a rhythm game for the whole family, that argument falls apart like an Oreo dunked in milk for 20 seconds longer than necessary, because even with the only damn concern of the player being hitting notes at the right time and nothing else, that is
now
a valid argument, because
Oreos.
like I said already, it's delayed to all hell and back. I watched that freestyle drumming demonstration with the Wii Fit board on a live stage during the game's announcement and I cringe. Then I tried to play it myself as a drummer and see that, oh, it wasn't the guy playing the game that sucked, the game itself sucked, not registering any subtle movements or, well, anything.
Yeah, that's pretty bad when your presentation can't make it look good.
The song list, the very definition of stock, predictable, baby-level tunes, and where there are a few great Nintendo tracks on there that can be made quite funny by using specific instruments, it doesn't matter because they all get butchered no matter what instrument you use on them. They are mostly mixtures of overused public domain pieces you'd find as presets on a Yamaha keyboard, even including some of the most basic nursery rhymes. Jesus Christ. Ever wanted to jump into the bridal march as a screaming karate chopping asylum patient? Or rap along to Yankee Doodle? Because you
hey, yo, rap with me, bro.
Sound bad even if you manage to get it in time. I suppose that's the main reason this game isn't any higher up the list, because you can at least get a bit of comedy value from the whole disaster, but once again I'm reminded on how much I paid for it and how seriously it took itself and how Nintendo actually thought this would blow the audience away.
Yeah, Shigeru Miyamoto.
And I realised it was a joke at my expense. One up. What? Did we even play the same game? Actually, did you even play the game itself in the first place? Because even I can't do that.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I actually heard a lot about Wii music from other people as well. And I've even seen that presentation a couple times, and all I can say is, Shigeru Miyamoto, I hope Nintendo paid you fucking well for that, because that was just embarrassing. I'm not saying this entirely as fault on you, but I feel like you better hope that Nintendo paid you very well for what you did there, because nobody should have to embarrass themselves with such an awkward presentation as that and trying to make something look like it's going to be the next big thing, you know? So we're just going to go ahead and move on to the Shadow the Hedgehog video, and this one's about 4 minutes long, so man, he must really, really hate this game. Not that I blame him too much, it is still an awful piece of shit, but I still think Sonic Boom is the worst. So, let's get it on. Caddicarus presents the Badvent Calendar.
Oh my god, out of every single bad Sonic game out there were so many to pick from, so sticking with my one game per franchise rule was not easy here. But I had to go with Shadow the Hedgehog. I nearly went with Sonic Boom Rise of Lyric and nearly went with Sonic 06, but to be honest, Rise of Lyric just depressed me more than anything for how little anyone cared with the making of it, and Sonic 06 for all the bugs and numerous awful moments. But hey, at least with Sonic 06 there's salvageable aspects like the soundtrack and some of the levels being slightly fun for 3D Sonic. Yes, I said that. But Shadow? I cannot think of one redeemable thing about the entire game other than the intro cutscene and the song. It's the most memorable part of the game by far, and it's mostly a shame how it sets the tone pretty well, only to completely trash it from the second you hit the start button. Put it this way, even with something like Sonic Free Riders or Sonic 06, if they weren't as broken as they were when they released, they wouldn't be that bad. They're mostly
that is kind of true. I mean, don't get me wrong, Sonic 06 still has some awful things in it.
Plays properly, yet is absolutely goddamn terrible just as a working video game speaks a lot about the quality of it in my personal opinion. And I'm sure there'll be many Sonic the Hedgehog superfans in the comments that will rise their swords to the game's aid and will call me out for being a Sonic hater and blah 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 blah, but no, you're wrong. Here's the thing. This game released in 2005. I was 11 years old at the time, and I'm a little embarrassed to admit that I thought back then this was the coolest and most badass thing I'd ever seen as a kid.
And I'll be guilty to admit I thought the same way too. And I say, again, in a very kind of guilty sort of way. But that seems like a very ballsy move. You're like, I admire your courage, Caddy, but you're literally begging for the fans to castrate you in the comment section. I'm not saying you shouldn't stick to your opinion, but you probably should be a little more careful there. Just saying.
I went into this game as an impressionable child that didn't know any better, loved Sonic Heroes to bits, and at the time expected Shadow with a submachine gun to be great, yet I still hated it, so there was no bias going into it. I didn't like it then when I wasn't a reviewer and couldn't explain why, and really don't like it now since being able to explain it, and I'm going to take joy in doing so right now. Let's begin with the first thing that happens when you start playing, the controls. Shadow throughout the whole game plays like a marble rolling on an ice rink with unplayable acceleration and slippiness that makes even basic platforming absolutely horrid. Again, going to another game that I could have picked, Sonic Boom at least controls decently. You know, aside from that thing. The gunplay functions, but with it being mostly
at least when the frame rate
only
actually
useful when
worked.
at a total standstill, it just feels like a pointless addition and one that can screw up the particular mission you go through where you have to shoot very specific enemies to please the relevant character you're doing a mission for, leaving it up to the game where bullets will end up. And even if that's not the case and you try to be careful, the pace of the game is halted dramatically from your finicky specific aiming and stop-start style in the first place. And those missions, whoa, you can either run to the gold ring to ignore everybody, shoot good guys, shoot bad guys, collect an absurd amount of stuff throughout the level, and basically do any other level of meaningless task that means instead of doing what Sonic games do best, running and jumping, you just inch your way through each stage with the awfully sensitive controls and still somehow manage to miss things, meaning needing to reach the very end of the stage in order to fly back to the start to comb back through the boring and bland, grey, gloomy stage all over again, but with no indication on where anything remains.
Yeah, and what makes it even worse is this tries to be like, hold on. This tries to be like in something like in vain to like the Telltale games, or at least I should say the former Telltale games were, in that any choice you make during your adventure can shape how the game ends. This game tries, and I'm going to put that in air quotes, tries to do that, but fails miserably at it for one simple reason, and that is no matter what choice you go, whether you stay neutral, you side with the bad guys, you side with the good guys, they're all still gonna fucking shoot at you. And I'm like, God damn it, I am helping you out, assholes. Like, give me a freaking break. Like, that is just lazy game design, even for the mid-2000s. There were games even back then that still managed to pull that off correctly, and this game couldn't even do that. God! At this point, I can now at least truly understand why he put this as the worst one of this franchise on the Badvent calendar. I still really hate Sonic Boom. In fact, I hate it just that little bit more than this, purely because of how poorly it performs and how it looks. Even for like 2013, 2014 or whatever. Yeah, 2014, it looked really awful. So, just wanted to get that off my chest.
I can hear you asking, why don't you just do those missions that mean you just run through the stage and do what every Sonic game does best? But in the end, that doesn't matter anyway, because even though there are different story pathways to take as a good hedgy, ignorant hedgy, and edgy hedgy, there's ultimately a final story segment that is actually where the story is supposed to go, but that means you have to do most of these missions and replay the same stages multiple times for all the different pathways, so the game can't even leave you feeling satisfied with the single alliance path you decide to take. And not just because the gameplay within the stage is so monotonous and dull, but because the cutscenes, voice acting, and unique endings to get are some of the worst directed, performed, and nonsensical in the entire Sonic universe. It's a cartoon hedgehog packing heat, what more do I need to say? The fact the game doesn't even have fun with itself despite that concept is enough for me to tell you to never check this one out, but hey, I know the game has its fans, so if you like it, that's fantastic, I'm happy for you. But for me, no, I've only finished it twice, once as a kid and once as an adult, and I will never do so ever again. Until a potential Caddicarus video, you never know. And maybe the GameCube version was better than the PS2 version that I grew up with, I have no idea. And come on, at least Sonic 06 was colourful and slightly varied, and Sonic Free Riders looked and ran okay. Look at this murky and muddy mess. It's so bleak and lifeless, and even open air areas look just as stagnant. The levels aren't even fun to look at, let alone play through, so what's the point of going anywhere near this game? Even the music, where I love a bit of hard rock and metal, is so plain and forgettable, it just molds into the lackluster art direction to give you an indiscernible mush of a game that makes every single stage feel like one giant highway across an empty desert. If you want to play a Shadow the Hedgehog game, you're better off finding a real hedgehog and punching its own shadow on the side of the road.
Wow.
Do you feel like you need to wash your...
And I don't know if it's just me either, but I actually think Shadow the Hedgehog looks surprisingly even worse than Sonic Adventure 2. And it's really weird considering it reuses a lot of the same aesthetics from Sonic Adventure 2, yet somehow doesn't really look as visually pleasing. And on top of that, because it doesn't look, and because it surprisingly looks even worse, the fact that it came out in the mid-2000s is freaking inexcusable. Well, I guess I can at the very least say this. He at least gave me a very good reason as to why he put it in the worst. Again, and I will always stand by it, Sonic Boom still is the worst one, and even some of the most hardcore enthusiasts of the franchise definitely can't defend that one, even though a very few minority of them have tried desperately and have failed miserably. So I can't really say too much else about this. I promise that I'll still be sticking to doing one of these every day from now on. It's just ever since I finally got over my sickness, I've been losing a bit of track of things, but I'm completely fine now, and I'm definitely going to be getting back on track starting tomorrow. The video might still be a little late because tomorrow's taco night, and I gotta be there to help make them, and I make some mean tacos. So, yeah, that's about all the time we got. If you liked the video, go ahead and comment, like, and or subscribe. And the other suggestions, leave some in the comment section below. And as always, I'm King Gargantuas, and I'll see you all next time. Hey guys, thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe to me if you want to see more videos like this. Follow me on Twitter at King Gargantuas if you want to know what I'm up to. Thanks again guys, and I'll see you all next time.